What if I told you there's a nation that endured more than 300 years of foreign domination, fought through the deadliest Pacific battle of World War II, and still rose to stand as Asia's oldest democracy? This is the extraordinary story of the Philippines, a saga so intense it could be mistaken for fiction, yet every triumph, tragedy, and twist is carved into the pages of real history. Picture this. It's 1521, and Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan lands on what we now call the Philippines. He's not even supposed to be there. He's searching for the Spice Islands, trying to prove you can reach them by sailing west instead of east. But here's the plot twist that changed history forever. Magellan never lives to tell his tale. He dies in battle against local chief Lapu-Lapu on the shores of Mactan Island, becoming one of history's most famous explorers to never complete his own expedition. But Spain doesn't give up. They return in 1565 under Miguel López de Legazpi, and this time they're here to stay. What follows is a colonization story unlike any other in Southeast Asia. The Spanish don't just want trade routes or temporary outposts. They want souls, silver, and complete control. Here's where the story gets fascinating. The Philippines becomes the western terminus of the first truly global trade network in human history. Picture massive galleons loaded with Chinese silk, porcelain, and spices sailing from Manila to Acapulco, Mexico. These aren't just ships. They're floating treasure chests worth millions in today's money. The Manila-Acapulco galleon trade connects Asia, the Americas, and Europe in ways never before possible. But here's what most people don't realize about Spanish colonization in the Philippines. Unlike other European colonies that focused purely on resource extraction, Spain embarks on one of history's most ambitious cultural transformation projects. They don't just want Filipino labor and land, they want Filipino minds and souls. Catholic missionaries arrive by the thousands, learning local languages and translating religious texts. They build churches, schools, and universities. The University of Santo Tomas, founded in 1611, is older than Harvard. Think about that for a moment. While English colonists in America are still struggling to establish permanent settlements, Manila already has a world-class university. This cultural transformation creates something unprecedented in colonial history. The Philippines becomes the only majority Christian nation in Asia, but it's not a simple conversion story. Filipino culture doesn't disappear. It adapts, blends, and creates something entirely new. Spanish saints get Filipino names. Catholic festivals incorporate indigenous traditions. Local languages absorb Spanish vocabulary while maintaining their unique grammar and structure. But every empire plants the seeds of its own destruction, and Spain's no different. By the 1800s, Filipino intellectuals educated in European universities start questioning why they're treated as second-class citizens in their own homeland. The Spanish promised equality through Christianity, but delivered a rigid caste system that kept Filipinos from top positions in government and church. Enter José Rizal, and this is where our story becomes truly revolutionary. Rizal isn't your typical rebel leader. He's a doctor, novelist, linguist, and scholar who speaks over 20 languages. Instead of organizing armed rebellion, he writes novels. 2 books, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, become more dangerous to Spanish rule than any army. These aren't just protest novels. They're surgical dissections of colonial society, exposing corruption, racism, and abuse with devastating precision. The Spanish government bans them immediately, but that only makes them more popular. Copies are smuggled throughout the archipelago, passed hand to hand, read in secret gatherings. Rizal's execution in 1896 becomes the spark that ignites full-scale revolution. But here's the twist. Rizal himself opposed violent revolution. He believed in reform, education, and peaceful change. His death transforms him from reformist into martyr, from advocate into symbol of everything Spain destroyed. The Philippine Revolution that follows is unlike other independence movements of its era. It's not just one leader or one region. It's a nationwide uprising led by secret societies called Katipunan. These aren't just political organizations. They're spiritual brotherhoods with elaborate rituals, blood oaths, and revolutionary theology that blends Catholic imagery with nationalist fervor. Andres Bonifacio emerges as the revolution's heart and soul. Where Rizal used words, Bonifacio uses action. Where Rizal wrote in Spanish for educated elites, Bonifacio speaks Tagalog to common farmers and workers. The revolution spreads like wildfire across Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Then comes 1898, and everything changes again. The Spanish-American War erupts, and suddenly, the Philippines finds itself at the center of global geopolitics. American ships arrive in Manila Bay, and Filipino revolutionaries think they've found powerful allies against Spain. Admiral George Dewey's victory at Manila Bay is so complete, so devastating, that Spain's Pacific Empire collapses overnight. But here's where the story takes its cruelest turn. America doesn't come as liberator. It comes as replacement colonizer. The Treaty of Paris, signed without a single Filipino representative present, transfers the Philippines from Spain to the United States for $20 million. Imagine learning that your entire country has been sold like a piece of property, and you had no say in the transaction. What follows is the Philippine-American War, though Americans initially call it the Philippine Insurrection, refusing to acknowledge Filipino sovereignty. This isn't a small conflict. It's a brutal 3-year war that kills over 200,000 Filipino civilians and fundamentally shapes both nations' futures. American colonization brings dramatic changes. English becomes the official language of education and government. Public health campaigns eliminate cholera and smallpox. Infrastructure projects connect previously isolated regions. Democratic institutions are gradually introduced. But American rule also brings new forms of cultural disruption. The educational system, while expanding literacy, deliberately promotes American values over Filipino traditions. Economic policies favor American businesses and agricultural exports over local industries. World War II transforms everything again. The Japanese invasion of 1941 catches both American and Filipino forces unprepared. The Bataan Death March becomes one of the war's most horrific atrocities. General Douglas MacArthur's promise, "I shall return," becomes legendary. But the 3 years of Japanese occupation devastate the archipelago. Filipino guerrilla resistance during Japanese occupation demonstrates extraordinary courage and organization. Underground networks operate throughout the islands, gathering intelligence, rescuing Allied prisoners, and maintaining hope for liberation. When MacArthur does return in 1944, he finds Filipino forces already controlling significant territory. The Battle of Manila in 1945 destroys the city so completely that it becomes the second most devastated Allied city after Warsaw. Over 100,000 Filipino civilians die in 1 month of urban warfare. The psychological and physical scars run deep. Independence finally arrives on July 4, 1946, but it comes with strings attached. The Bell Trade Act requires the Philippines to grant Americans equal economic rights for 28 years. Military bases agreements allow continued American presence. Independence is real but limited. The post-independence era brings new challenges. Democracy takes root but struggles with poverty, corruption, and regional conflicts. President Ferdinand Marcos declares martial law in 1972, suspending democratic institutions for over a decade. The People Power Revolution of 1986 becomes one of history's most remarkable peaceful uprisings. Millions of Filipinos gather on EDSA Highway, facing down tanks with flowers and rosaries. Corazon Aquino, widow of assassinated opposition leader Benigno Aquino, becomes president through pure people power. This revolution inspires peaceful movements worldwide, proving that dictatorships can fall without violence when people unite with common purpose. Today's Philippines stands as Southeast Asia's most vibrant democracy, despite ongoing challenges. The nation that once seemed forever trapped under foreign rule now exports its culture globally. Filipino workers, artists, and entrepreneurs succeed worldwide while maintaining deep connections to their homeland. The story of the Philippines teaches us that identity survives colonization, that culture adapts without disappearing, and that people power can overcome seemingly impossible odds. From Magellan's arrival to today's digital age, the Philippines proves that small nations can have enormous impact on world history. This journey from colony to republic spans over 5 centuries, touching every continent, involving every major world power, yet remaining fundamentally Filipino throughout. It's a story of resilience, adaptation, and the unbreakable human spirit that refuses to surrender its dreams of freedom.